So Gamage had recording issues, and I made a really funny joke where I said, there can be only one recording.
Yeah, because Rachel's is just now getting into Highlander, so she doesn't know how many times that joke has been used.
Also,
for
side note,
every situation.
At no point do they say there can be only one Highlander.
Well,
it's just there can be only one.
Or first of all, let's start the episode first. Welcome to We Have That Podcast at Home. I'm On Brand Gamage.
I'm On Brand Rachel, and this is the one and only Highlander podcast. Because there can be only one podcast, and you've chosen this one. You chose poorly, but now you can't take it back.
Well, that's Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, but okay.
It's a mixture of a lot of things.
Also has Sean Connery. Each week we play Russian roulette. With our success, it's been a wheel to find out the genre of next week's podcast. This week we're attempting to find out of pop culture, which is Highlander. We're talking about Highlander. By the way,
spoilers.
It's like a 40-year-old movie at this point. Actually, exactly.
Genuinely, it is a 40-year-old movie, which is insane. It's weird to think that the 80s was 40 years ago.
They never say there can only be one Highlander because
no, they do not.
Highlanders are not what they're called.
No. The thing is, there are multiple characters that are a Highlander.
Because they're from the Highlands in Scotland.
Oh, so it's like an affectionate nickname.
Yeah.
I thought it was all of the good immortal dudes are called Highlanders, and then the evil dudes are called the Kruggeruns or Kragoons or whatever the fuck. But now I'm realizing that just happens to be where that dude's from, and they're all from different places.
That is hilarious that you fucked up.
You know what? You're going to see how much I fucked up the interpretation of this film very shortly.
Oh, it's okay.
It starts very strong.
I know. But before we start, is there anything we wanted to discuss?
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Things happening. Yeah.
If you got $1 million to fuck your dad or $3 million to eat your mother's butthole, which one would you choose?
How alive do they have to be?
They would both be alive in this experience.
Probably the $1 million.
You'd fuck your dad? See, I chose $3 million for the butthole licking because I'm like, I think the two of us can reasonably discern that that's not a sexual experience. But if you fuck your dad, it has to be sexual, which is just.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't specify sexual encounter fuck. There's all kinds of different fuck.
But I mean, you still have to fuck
Meanwhile,
him.
the other one is tongue to asshole, no debate.
Yeah, but the other one is penis.
Not necessarily. It fucking mean a lot of things. Have you ever lost hard at NASCAR video games and be like, you fucked me?
Oh, I see. You're using loophole interpretations.
I am, yes.
That's a smart choice. That's a very smart choice. No, Tyler was asking me that earlier today because he was listening to a podcast that was talking about it. And they were like, with $3 million, I can go to therapy. So I'm choosing that one. I was like, that's sound logic.
I don't know if you saw, but I don't know because I don't look at phone apps and download them. But TikTok apparently is going to get banned because of the bill signed by Congress.
Why is it getting banned? What is the bill? I don't pay attention to TikTok outside of I know that
the
it's
bill
run
lives
by
on
China?
Capitol Hill. It absolutely super is. Yes.
Are we gonna become
North Korea?
What the fuck is no? The conjunction junction. What's your function? What the fuck is that called? That show series, whatever the fuck. The educational videos.
Yeah, you're talking about Schoolhouse Rock, but I just made that joke, but
yeah, that's why I was asking.
Because he's living on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, I said, are we gonna become Schoolhouse Rock? I just couldn't remember what the fuck it was called.
Yeah, I see now. You were responding to my sentence, but 2 sentences later, and I was confused because I have ADHD. Well, I had already forgotten that sentence exists.
Once I speak, it is gone.
Yeah. So yesterday or today, I don't know. Last week for everybody else is
This is
Oh
like
wait, this one
four
is
weeks
actually
ago
like
for everybody
yeah.
else. Because I'm about to go to
Cat's out
Europe,
of the
so we're
bag.
aggressively recording several episodes for like the month that I'm gone.
Yeah.
So
So
this is so far in the past. This is the oldest news you could have.
so here's hoping that nothing drastic changes in the next like couple weeks.
What
But
if the world blows up between then and now?
well, then I
That'd be
guess
crazy.
it doesn't fucking matter at all. But the House approved bill to block the TikTok app in the US because it is super like it has a lot of spy potential and it is owned by China. I guess the caveat is that the only way to have TikTok stay in the United States is if China sells it. It like they sell their
Oh,
US
got it. Yeah.
license.
Well, wasn't the whole thing that they were like China owned it and they were obviously using people's data? Wasn't
Yeah.
that like the whole beef a couple years ago and then people just went, and kept using it anyway?
Yeah, but they've been doing that with Facebook for fucking 30 years now. I don't know.
That's like any social media, I feel like. They're just going to sell
All
your data
social
to the
media.
highest bidder, so it doesn't really matter.
If you ever use social media and then you see like I take this test where I ask you questions about your mother's maiden name and your pet names, then you're stupid for reposting it and you deserve to get hacked.
Well, but also like the company itself.
Oh, absolutely, yes. On both
Just
sides.
selling your data. I think the coolest Shark Tank thing that I ever saw, I've never actually really watched the show. I just saw a clip of this, was this guy made a business, I think out of the UK, where you can sign up and essentially you get royalties every time a company sells your data because it's technically yours. So you can
Yeah.
charge royalties. So every time they sell it, you get a cut of the profits because it's going to happen anyway. So now you're at least getting paid for people being nefarious assholes with your information.
Yes.
I don't remember what it's called, but we should all sign
Good
up
information. So, again, we hit pop culture last week after discussing about how much we wanted to do Highlander. So, we did Highlander.
for it. Yeah, which, by the way, I promise I'm not rigging the wheel. It just really likes us.
I mean, that's great for me, honestly. Like, I love Highlander. I haven't watched the first Highlander in, I want to say, a year or two.
Okay,
But I mean,
I'm really
but I know
excited
it.
that you said that you love Highlander because I watched this film and I want you to know my general takeaways were what the fuck?
Yeah,
And that's it.
fine.
That's about it.
No, that's good. So just first of all, did you like it?
I wouldn't say I disliked it. I would
All
say
right.
it was largely confusing and strange.
Oh boy, Rachel. This is going to be a fun episode.
Yes, it is.
So
I like
I've
the
read
maniacal laugh.
I read that the best critique for Highlander is that people hate Highlander because it's cheesy, bombastic, and absurd, and people love it for the same reasons.
Oh god, yeah, it's very cult classic-y, like there's a lot of extremely 80s shit going on, which I feel like most cult classics that exist are from that general time era, where it's you get this like wild, zany, like you said, bombastic film.
Oh yeah, it definitely fits in that era of there was a lot of other movies around this time that had like kind of just super bombastic is the perfect word for it because it is bombastic. It's chaotic, it's convoluted to a point, it's over the top.
Yeah, chaotic, convoluted, kind of ridiculous.
And I love it. What did you think of the soundtrack?
Okay. I was gonna say, my second line in my notes is Queen doing the whole soundtrack is sick as fuck. And I have a later note about Queen, but I'm gonna wait until I'm reading through it.
All right. Let me stop bothering you then, and you regale me with the tale of the Highlander starring Christopher Lambert and Sean Connery.
All right.
And also Clancy Brown, because he's great.
Yeah, I didn't know who the fuck Clancy Brown played until the end of the movie when Amazon was like Clancy Brown as the fucking evil dude, and I was like, no fucking way, that's young Clancy ass Brown.
He's so young.
He is a youth in that movie.
But I mean, I'm so attuned to Clancy Brown that I could just hear his voice and be like, yep.
Dude, at one point in the movie, I was sitting there listening to his voice, and now I'm convinced that Clancy Brown must have voiced someone, and I think Jack and Daxter.
Yeah, probably.
And I've yet to Google it, but I'm convinced.
Clancy Brown has voiced almost everything. He's everywhere somewhere.
Boom. Yep, Clancy Brown, Jack 2.
Yeah.
Yep, Baron Praxis.
All right.
I was like,
let's rip this Band-Aid off.
Yeah, I thought so. Sorry, I was sitting there and I've got a pretty good ear for voices, so I was like, that's gotta be the fucking Baron from Jack.
It's usually a safe bet. He's got a very distinct voice.
Yes, he does. It's a cool voice.
But I was gonna say he even has like a good range of voices. Like it's not just I'm Clancy Brown and this is my voice. It's a range of voices.
In Detroit Become Human, he doesn't use the same voice at all.
Yeah. And then there's also Mr. Krabs. That's different too.
Oh my god, I keep forgetting he's fucking Mr. Krabs.
Yeah, but like
sorry, he's not fucking Mr. Krabs. He just is Mr. Krabs.
I mean, he might.
He could be fucking him. I guess he probably has fucked himself.
Put yourself together. He has range, but it is very distinct range. Where like I could point that out. Same goes for Mark Hamill, I guess too. Like I could point out Mark Hamill.
I guess. I didn't know Mark Hamill was Lord Ozai for a while, because it's not exactly like his main voice that he uses.
I forget what Lord Ozai sounded like, but yeah, he is. Did he use his Joker voice?
I don't know. I haven't heard Mark Hamill's Joker in a long time.
It's weird because Mark Hamill also plays the Trickster, which is like Diet Joker for the Flash.
Diet Joker.
He is. He's like the Joker, but not as good or menacing, but he voices both of them, and it's like the same voice.
Joker Zero, Joker No Sugar.
All right, let's tell me Highlander, please.
All right, so step 1. It took me a strange amount of time to figure out if I was watching or about to rent the correct movie, because when I went to go watch Highlander, I did not know that 90% of this fucking film takes place in a modern setting. So when it popped up a picture of this dude with short hair in New York, I was like, what the fuck? And then I had to sit there and click on multiple films, because one of them, when you go to Amazon, because that's where I was able to rent it, also fuck Amazon.
I think I'm pretty sure it's free on YouTube. That's where I watched mine.
Well, my bad. So there was like 2 options. One was in 4K, but one of them it said like The Highlander or Highlander the movie, and the other one just said Highlander 4K. So I was like, fuck, are these 2 different films? And the second one had him holding a sword as the cover photo, but then when you clicked it, it's like him in New York with a weird fucking description about a dude in New York. But the first one is a dude in New York as the cover photo, and then you click it and it's him with a sword. So I was like, I don't know what the fuck is happening. So I just clicked on one and hoped for the best and was like, if these are 2 different films, Gamage is getting whatever this is.
Okay.
Yeah, so no, they're both the same film now that I have learned what the fuck Highlander is.
Because there's several different movies and there's different versions of each one, and there's also a TV series that was in the 90s too.
Well, I watched the 1986 Highlander. I'm pretty sure it's the one I was supposed to watch.
Nail on the head.
But no, Queen starting out when doing like the whole dope ass soundtrack was sick as hell. I really like the ominous intro that was immediately followed by garish wrestlers.
Yes.
Because it just made me feel like, because I read the description about how he was immortal, because I knew fucking nothing about Highlander going into this. And it just made me feel like these immortal Highlanders, because I obviously at this point and up until very recently did not know that is not what the immortal people were called. It made me feel like they were just gonna duke it out in like fake WWE style. So I was kind of excited, and that is sort of what happened, just with swords.
It is a weird intro with the wrestling. Every time I pull that on, it is kind of jarring.
It's this very odd intro of wrestling, and then he has like Scottish flashbacks while he's there, and then he just dips from the fucking wrestling match to a parking garage. And also, side note, so our main character dude, who is unnamed thus far, he just like goes out of his way to step on a can, which makes it feel like he's into littering. And I'm like, if this dude's immortal, shouldn't he give a shit about climate change?
I mean, you're immortal for so long. I would imagine that you become jaded at the same time.
Yeah,
Like
but like
you've seen you've seen 2 world wars. You've
if I
seen
were
the shit
it,
that goes on, and you're like, fuck it, I don't give a fuck anymore.
but if I were immortal and was raised in like the Scottish Highlands, which is beautiful nature, and then was in a city, I think I'd be pretty into picking up the fucking trash and planting trees.
That's a weird fixation, but
It's just that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, fucking
that's fine.
I think it's because I'm reading the Aragon, or I'm listening to the Aragon series again. And elves are super into fucking nature because they're like, well, I watched this 600-year tree grow because I'm 700 years old, so I give a shit about the tree.
God, you
And
bring
so
up E-Ragon on every episode of this podcast.
well, because I'm on the 3rd book and it's good. Anyway, so I think he should probably be more into climate change than he is. Anyway,
All
so
right.
he's in the parking garage.
First of all, that you just said he should be more into climate change. It's
Why?
fucking hilarious. Yeah, keep going.
Okay. So he goes through the parking garage at the WWE match, and some dude in a suit walks up behind him and calls him Macklemore, is what I thought he said. And then he calls him Falud or some shit. I think it ends up being McQuaid and Facil, but those are the things that I heard. And then they're just in like a sword fighting duel in this fucking parking lot. And the special effects in this film are wild because they're just sword fighting, and every time the swords touch, it's launching sparks everywhere, and they're absolutely destroying the infrastructure of the area, and everything has to be like foggy and damp and dramatic in an 80s fight scene, and they really go out of their way to explain why it's foggy, damp, and dramatic. So the guy's like, he like goes out of his way to like cut sprinkler lines and like hit things full of gas.
I mean, this movie created the trope, honestly.
There's no way it created the trope.
No, I mean, like the
the
popularity of this movie made it so that now when you look at these things, you go, "Oh, that's a cliche."
Yeah. So our main dude Macklemore at some point in this fight loses his sword, and so he starts trying to fight with like a large pipe, and then the fucking dude in the suit just starts backflipping for like a literal film minute. They show him backflipping like 30 feet. There's a very long pause where you're like watching Macklemore like get his sword back, and then you see him continuing to backflip, which is insinuating that this entire time he's just been backflipping away. So Macklemore gets his sword back and just fucking decapitates Flippy McGee. And then some weird fucking electricity magic starts controlling cars, and then absorbing into Macklemore, and some godlight shines down upon him, and the cars start exploding, and Macklemore looks like he's getting possessed and kind of like going through some shit.
Really quickly, if you say Macklemore one more time, I'm ending this podcast.
Why? That's all I put in my notes is I called him Macklemore every single time.
His name is McLeod. Because
I know.
That's a Scottish
name. I figured that out the next time they referred to him, but I literally noted when I figured out his name.
Okay, all right.
Because I didn't hear it the first time, so I was like, shit. And I'm not about to rewind for that. So he does some electricity magic. At this point, I have since learned more about his electricity magic, but at this point, I didn't know if he was like possessed by it or controlling it or absorbing it. There was a lot going on. So then his whole like electricity dealie suddenly ends, and he starts running away and stashes his sword in the WWE parking lot. And then we're transported back to medieval Scotland, and this is where I learned that his name is McLeod, but he is forever Macklemore to me. So some lady wants to bang Connor Macklemore as he goes off to war.
Rachel, I'm serious about a few things in his life.
I will start calling him McLeod. All right, so the dude they're facing...
You could just call him the Highlander. That is better, honestly.
I'm just going to call him
Highlander, man.
So the dude they're facing off against has some like he has like sick ass skull armor. It's cool as shit. It looks like a saber tooth eating his head with one of those big like was it Romans that had this? Like the big ponytail coming out of the back? I don't think he is Roman, but it was like a
No,
skull with a
I
big ponytail attached to the helmet.
think it was the Mongolians.
Maybe all the
Because
above.
the Romans
Mongolians
had
would
like
make sense.
the vertical broom
Yeah,
thingy.
Mongolians would make sense. But yeah, so like really cool skull
Why is
helmet
your house
thing
always
with
sick?
a ponytail. Dude, I've been sick for 6,000 years. I don't know what's happening. I'm somewhere between embracing this life and ready to give up. So, yeah, some lady wants to bang Connor, and then he goes to fight the dude in the sick armor. And the dude in the skull armor wants McLeod more than the lady does.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he wants him. So then they fight while people play bagpipes, which is pretty cool. And then while they're fighting, thought it was really funny because they were just taking turns saying, "Death to McLeod!" and "McLeod!" as they went to go fight. And then nobody's fighting him. And he's a shit-ass fighter because he sits there and is complaining that nobody is fighting him. And then the skull dude shows up, just kind of shows off with his horse, gets off the horse, and just stabs him. And he makes no attempt to block it. He just sort of stands there and lets himself get stabbed.
One thing you'll learn across all of the Highlander movies is that the choreography is never quite great.
No, it's awful.
It's
So then we're back in the present, and he's like trying to steal a God, I put Macklemore in my notes. Are you really gonna be mad if I say it?
yes.
Jesus.
He's not going to the thrift store.
He fucking might be. He's been alive for 6,000 years.
It was a funny joke like the first like 4 times you said it. But then you were like, so Macklemore did the Macklemore thing in a Macklemore, and I'm like, you said it 5 times in one sentence. I need this to stop.
We're back in the present, and McLeod is trying to steal a car, and the police show up and aggressively try to arrest him. Also, I would like to note this dude is kind of a garbage actor. He's got like Bella Swan face, but angry.
Christopher Lambert.
He like permanently has his like eyebrows are flat and his mouth's kind of hanging open the whole movie.
Well, I mean, that's because he's fighting the gravitational force of his fucking forehead. It is so goddamn just huge.
It is. That's why I made the meme of there can be only one forehead. Because that's his forehead takes up the whole screen.
Did you post that somewhere?
I posted it for Brittany to post.
God, it is such a fucking forehead, though.
Dude, it's a huge forehead.
Like, I swear, it like, the photo you posted, I just now am looking at it. It looks photoshopped. I know it's not.
Yeah, it looks like somebody fish-eyed his forehead.
It looks like there's tits on his forehead, honestly, in this photo. Like, if you kind of squint your eyes, you're like, it looks like a censored breastises. But, like, right underneath
it looks like he's looking at his own forehead.
Because you can see it. But it looks like there's a crease, too, like, right underneath it. Like, and where his hairline is, it looks like he's wearing a forehead cap. And, like, it's in his contract or some shit. Have you ever seen the original Mortal Kombat movie?
No.
You haven't?
No, I have not.
God, that's the next pop culture episode.
All right, done and done.
But you know Mortal Kombat.
Mm-hmm.
You know the character Raiden?
Maybe, probably.
He's the electric god guy.
Yes.
Yes.
Christopher
Lambert plays Raiden in the Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh, I'm sure he does a fantastic job with his angry brow and his open mouth.
I mean, I enjoyed it, but
well, I mean, you enjoy this film too.
It's one of those things where it's like I would never like if I were to make a top 100 movies of all time, like there's a lot of movies that I'm like I enjoy the shit out of this movie. It would never make the list, and I acknowledge that.
Yeah, that's valid.
And Highlander's definitely on that list.
All right. So fish face, we're back in the past, and he's dead from getting stabbed, and he is making the same fish face while the horny lady cries. And then we flash back to the present again, and they're investigating the suited man's death because he fucking decapitated him.
Right.
After he did all of his flips.
Normal police
And
work.
what? Well,
Nor-
the decapitation is normal police work?
Yes.
Well, it's New York, so probably.
Yeah, I'm saying the police are doing their job is what's happening is.
Yeah, they're roughing people up and investigating crimes. Yeah, so we're back in the present. They're investigating the dude's decapitation death, and they're questioning McLeod about it. We're introduced what I imagine his love interest number 2 is going to be, who is, I thought she was the investigator of the crime. I don't think she's an investigator for the police station.
I don't think she is either. I think she's like.
Her job's sort of awkwardly
she's
convoluted.
Dude. She's like a museum curator or something. Like she knows like ancient shit.
Well, no. So later we learn that she wrote a book about the metallurgy of ancient swords.
Yeah.
And then she tells him that she is a curator for a museum in like ancient artifacts. He calls her out and is like, I looked up your background and it doesn't say you work for them. It says you work for the police station. So I'm like, I don't know what the fuck she does, because also all of the police officers at the police station, because she's a woman in the 80s working for the police department, treat her like a piece of garbage.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
I have
I've watched the
literally no
movie,
clue what this lady does.
I've seen the movie 90 times, and I don't have an answer to your question. I don't know what she does.
The long and the short of it is she does more investigating than any other fucking dude in this film that works for the police department. So I thought she was an investigator for most of the time. And then I later became confused because she has a lot of cool hobbies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought she was the investigator. But anyway, we eventually learn that he is an antique dealer. And then they question him about the Flippy Man's sword. And he says some shit about how maybe he just went and committed suicide and decapitated himself with his own sword. And the cop's response to this is to call him a faggot and ask if he was meeting up for sexual favors.
That's the 80s.
And McLeod tries to beat the homophobia out of them and starts attacking the police officers. And then immediately follows it up with, am I getting arrested? And they say no, and they don't arrest him because he's a white guy. So, of course, assault on an officer is unavailable as an arrest charge.
I imagine that they thought he was a cop because they just saw the reflection in his fucking forehead.
I wasn't expecting that to be what you said. At all. Oh, Jesus. So then we meet a new character who actually ended up being the Skull Dude, but he's in the future. So the fucking cool ass skull guy that stabbed him in the past is now in the present, and he has sick ass intro music and an insane neck scar that looks like someone attempted to decapitate him and failed. So Skull Dude gets a hotel room, and the guy at the front asks if he wants any broads or cocaine. He says no and goes and plays with. He has like a suitcase full of swords, but they're like Inspector fucking Gadget swords because he keeps putting on different fucking attachments to them, flinging it around, adding a new attachment or switching it out, flinging it around, and just like fucking around.
It's like one giant claymore, but it's in pieces, which makes it a garbage sword, honestly. But...
Oh God, yes. But he keeps just attaching more pieces and then flicking it around again.
Yeah.
So some chick named Candy goes to his room. I'm pretty sure she has to have died at some point because he's a fucking psychopath. I don't know if we ever see Candy again, to be perfectly honest.
No, but she like introduces herself. She's like, I'm Candy, and he's like, sure you are.
Yeah, I don't think we find out if she died or if anything happens to her, but I just can only assume that he would have murdered her because I don't think he gives a fuck.
I mean, she's a hooker. It's probably a safe bet.
Yeah. So McLeod then goes back to the scene of the crime in the WWE parking lot and grabs the sword that he stashed, and the investigator, not investigator lady, Brenda, also shows up there. And she uses a fucking metal detector on this like cement beam that McLeod hit with a sword at one point, and it beeps where the sword cut into the cement pole. And I don't really know the significance of that. Other than like she's like, oh, the sword stabbed the cement pole. This is impossible.
Yeah, it's literally just a fucking like, how do we get the story to progress? Because most of those pillars have like iron rods in them
they have
to
metal
keep their
inside
structure
of them. Yeah.
So it's a stupid fucking. All right.
Well, I mean, I don't think she's an official investigator, so maybe she's just trying her fucking best.
I'll take my metal detector to this parking garage. That'll
show
get
him.
me the scoop.
So then McLeod, being the fucking completely competent person that he is, knocks over a bottle in the parking garage, and Brenda gets scared, so she runs away. And she goes to get drunk at a bar, and apparently McLeod followed her to the bar and starts to flirt with her.
Dude.
And then he leaves because she's like, nah, dog. And he saves her from Inspector Gadget Skullman, who's swinging around his shitty claymore. I wrote, apparently there can be only one of them, because he keeps saying it every time he sees McLeod. And this was also the portion of the film where I realized that is indeed the skull guy.
Yeah. Really quickly, did you write down why he was trying to kill Brenda?
No. Was there a reason? I thought he was just murdering people.
Fuck, I have no idea. I was hoping you've got it and figured it out.
No, I think he just wanted to kill Brenda.
Because it makes no fucking sense.
No, I think he just saw a bitch on the street and was like, let's end her.
Yeah, Candy's dead. Candy's so dead.
Yeah, Candy's for sure dead. He goes after Brenda next.
He spots Brenda.
I think it's Brenda was following McLeod, so maybe he was like trying to fuck with him. I don't know.
Probably.
But him and McLeod start fighting. The police interrupt their fight with a fucking helicopter, which they're in the middle of like a fucking warehouse district, so I don't know who reported it and how the police got on it so quickly that they had a fucking helicopter show up.
These movies in their fucking warehouses, I swear to God.
Also, they sent a police helicopter to interrupt their fight, and then they just sort of like disengage, and the police are like never around again in this scene.
Well, police in the 80s used helicopters a lot more.
Well, it just seems
maybe. I don't know. I'm making that up.
It seems like when like a teacher sees two kids bickering in the back and they just walk over and go, hey, and then leave. But I'm like, the police showed up in a helicopter, went, hey, and then left. That's it. That's basically what happened. And then it being the fucking hypocrite that he is, McLeod tells Brenda not to follow him after he just followed her to the fucking bar. Which is some like high school ass emo shit where he's like, no, don't follow me, even though I just followed you and flirted with you. And then we're back in the past. And he walks out of a room that he was dead in, and he is alive, and everyone is... Their response isn't quite like surprised enough about the fact that he's alive. They look like vaguely spooked. And I think you'd be pretty disturbed if someone you thought was dead just walked into the fucking room. And then they eventually turn into a mob because they think he's the devil and they try to kill him. And even the horny lady wants to kill him because she also thinks he's the devil. They like put him on a cross and try to murder him and banish him or some shit, or they try to kill him and then he gets up and leaves. I'm not really sure. I didn't pay a ton of attention during that scene. And then we're back in the present. And this is also where I note that I didn't expect so much of this film to take place in the present based off the fact that the fucking movie cover is in ye olde Scotland.
Right.
And then we get introduced to his third love interest, which is the second one chronologically. And I feel like they just do this to point out that our main character fucks. And also they show a scene of him like fucking her in his kilt.
Yeah.
And then like right after they show some gay pirate showing up. And I noted, is this why they called him a faggot? And And then the gay pirate's like, you're immortal with powers. And there's some scene where he's reaching into the sky like a fucking weather vane trying to collect fucking lightning. And the gay pirate's like, you're equally as mythical as me, apparently. And then, I also noted here that unless Queen is playing, the audio in this movie is fucking ass, because it's quiet as hell unless Queen is playing.
You're right. And I do want to touch on the gay pirate is actually played by Sean Connery.
It is. Yeah.
And he is playing the character. Let's see if I could remember. It's Sanchez Villarreal Ramirez. Hold on.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
I
He
wrote it
calls
down
him
somewhere.
Spanish Peacock.
Oh, it's Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez, which is a
You're
very,
pretty
very,
fucking
very
close.
Spanish name.
Mm-hmm.
And
But he's Egyptian.
he's Egyptian, and
Yep.
he wields a Japanese katana, and he's
He's
played
got a
by.
lot going on.
And Sean Connery is not an Egyptian; he is a Scottish man. So he's a Scottish man in Scotland playing an Egyptian with a Spanish name and his samurai sword.
And I think a Spanish accent?
I mean, it's a Scottish accent technically, but yeah, he's not the Highlander. That's the crazy
No.
part.
No, he is not the Highlander, because there can be only one Highlander.
Hey, Sean Connery, I know that you're Scottish. Do you want to be in this movie, The Highlander? Yes, but only if I could play not a Scottish man.
Yeah, I don't want to be the Scottish man. I'd love to play a much more convoluted character. I want to be an enigma wrapped in an enigma.
Well, that's not his original name. Like, Ramirez is the name the character's known by, but his like original name is like Tanek or something like that. That was his original Egyptian name.
Who the fuck knows? He calls him Spanish Peacock the whole time, and they have a very homoerotic relationship together.
Yes, they do.
So then, he meets the gay pirate who's like, we're mythical together! And they start their bromance. Or just their romance, to be honest. And then we flash back to the future, or the present. And Brenda's in the police station, and I think this is when I figured out she's not an investigator, because she snuck into someone's office to look at the file folder for this murder.
Right.
And there's a picture of McLeod, who his name's like Russell Nash in the present. And so Brenda discovers that McLeod is the potential killer of, well, I guess not potential killer. He does murder the fucking flippy suit man, which I don't know if they ever discuss. I don't know if he ever admits that he murders Suit Man.
I think maybe at one point he tells Brenda the reason why, but
Well, maybe. Brenda, this is also when we learn that Brenda is apparently a sword book author.
yeah.
And then I put, she's not an investigator, but a consultant? Question mark, question mark, question mark? Which I also don't think is true.
Why did they even call her in if they didn't know that swords were involved?
I don't fucking know, dude. Her entire story arc is confusing as fuck. And then I put, she better be a Highlander, because I didn't know what the fuck that was yet.
Well, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, anyway, then we flash back to the past, and the gay pirate and McLeod are on a boat, and he's like, I can't swim, and the gay pirate keeps jiggling the boat, and he's like, dude, I can't swim, and he goes, you're fucking immortal, and just tips him off the boat. And then he indeed does not know how to swim, so he sinks to the bottom. But this seems odd because Scotland has a lot of fucking water. So I would think that he knows how to swim, but I guess it's cold water, so maybe not.
I don't know. Not everybody knew how to swim back then.
I guess,
I mean, they don't
but if
now.
you're around water all the time, I would think that you would possibly venture to learn.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he sinks to the bottom and discovers that, this is also where I put, I think he is discovering that he's immortal throughout these flashbacks. Because this was the moment that I realized that he did not know that until now. So he sinks to the bottom, realizes he's not gonna die, which is also strange because when he gets stabbed and shit, he dies. He just then like heals and comes back to life. So you would think he would drown and then heal and come back to life.
He wasn't immortal until that point because like being immortal is like because you have the blood of kings, and you have to like suffer a mortal wound before it triggers.
I see. So he had to die to become immortal.
Yeah, but not without
Got it.
no decapitation is the
Yeah, I see. No, I got that part. They're like zombies. They need their brains still.
zombie rules.
Yeah. So anyway, so he sinks, and then he starts slapping kelp with his sword, which I thought was funny. And the gay pirate then schools him in a fantastical way. I don't know what the fuck that meant, but he goes to like he climbs out of the water and then he goes to smack the gay pirate on the head with the sword, but he fights like a piece of shit, so the gay pirate kicks his ass. And then in the middle of the scene where Ramirez is like, "You're a shit fighter, we need to teach you," fish fall out of his kilt. And my only thought was, where the fuck were the fish when they were in his kilt? Because a kilt is just a skirt.
Right.
Which leaves like one place for the fish to be, and that's tucked between his fucking butt cheeks. Because it's two like 6-inch long fish that just fall out of his kilt, and they smile at each other after it happens. And I can't surmise any other location than stuck between his butt cheeks.
I mean, it's a safe bet.
And then I note, this dude's face is truly stuck on one expression. He looks like a caveman trying to grasp calculus.
Poor Christopher Lambert.
Sorry, Christopher Lambert. About your forehead and your face.
I mean, I'm kind of not.
And then there's a montage of him gaining power and apparently feeling the animals around him with his gay pirate lover. He finally bests him with a sword, and the whole thing was pretty homoerotic as they, like, celebrated. The gay pirate tells him not to fall in love with this girl. I think her name's Heather, because he's immortal, but really I think the subtext here is that he wants to be fishy butt lovers forever.
It's quite possible.
And then he explains that Kurgans is the dude that stabbed him a long time ago.
Yes.
And is like hunting him, and that they're evil Russians, which I thought was funny because that seems like a very traditional villain stereotype for the time, was that Russians are evil.
They probably
Still
was like,
is.
yes, Russian. He's Russian.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it makes sense in any other way.
Yeah. And then fucking Russian skull dude, the Kurgan, came to kill McLeod and the gay pirate and Heather. He decapitates the gay pirate, and then it looks like he jizzes in his pants when he's like resorbing the gay pirate's power.
Yeah, it's called the quickening. Like they absorb like
Yes.
the immortal power.
I don't think they call it the fucking quickening until the very end, when he's like, "The quickening is overpowering me."
I think Ramirez calls it the quickening at some point early on when he's explaining it. He doesn't do a very good job of it, but yeah.
No, there's a lot of shit that is not explained well in this.
And if it is, it's like in a passing, and you miss it. You're like, wait, what? What did you say? And then it's gone, and then you're just expected to know it.
Yeah, it's like someone's like, "Hi, how are you? 3.14 is gonna be the lotto number today. Goodbye." And you're like, "Wait, what?" Yeah, so he decapitates Ramirez, jizzes in his pants during the quickening, and then he like falls off a bridge because the lightning cuts it in half. Not sure how the physics of that works. And then like Heather is in the scene, and he sort of like pops out of the rubble and chokes Heather, and then we flash over to McLeod being in World War II, and he saves a child until a Nazi shoots him. He actually gets like a decent one-liner in where the Nazi makes some comment, and then he's like, "Ho, well, you're the master race," and then shoots him with his own gun. And then I'm pretty sure the girl he saves is the woman that works in his shop as like the receptionist desk lady. And then they show a scene where he kisses her, and I don't think it's meant to be weird, but it kind of comes off as weird since they just showed him saving her as a child. I don't think it's meant to be like romantic. I think it's like an affectionate
Yeah.
Like, we've known each other for a long time. Like, I don't even remember if it was on the lips or not. I just
She's
remember being like, oh, that was a weird follow-up.
yeah,
Could
she's
have
like
been a
his
hug.
assistant or some shit.
Yeah. And then we flash back to the present, and like Brenda comes over to try to kind of confront him, and but also like invites him to have dinner at her house. And then he gets there and he finds a gun in her house, and then looks out the window and there's like one of the cops is outside. And so he's like, bitch, this is a sting operation. And also, why the fuck does his accent like not match his origin story at all?
Yeah, I'm again, the actual Scotsman in the fucking production is an Egyptian Spanish guy, so I don't
Yeah,
know what
it's
to tell
all
you.
fucking confusing. So yeah, and then he's like, "What game are you playing at?" And she's like, "I just want to know where the dope fucking samurai sword is that the gay pirate had." And then when she admits that she just wants to know about the sword because she wrote a fucking book on swords, he hard accuses her of being selfish, and they've only interacted like 2 times, and he's like, "You're fucking selfish for wanting to know about this cool goddamn sword that you think I know about." And then we go back in time, and it's his relationship with Heather, the girl. And then we see that they live like a whole life together, and she dies of old age.
All to
Um,
Queens Who Wants to Live Forever, which is a very beautiful
yes.
moment. I'm pretty
Yes, it
sure that she
is.
was sexually assaulted by the
We don't
guy
learn that
too.
until later.
Oh, really? I completely forgot. My bad. Um,
I'm pretty sure it's not mentioned until like the end of the film.
so I don't know if you watch a lot of Rick and Morty, but there's one episode where Jerry's like a wooden puppet, and like he's living forever, and it's in an entire like the Highlander Who Wants to Live Forever moment.
I do think I know what you're talking about, but I can't even contextualize it with this because I hadn't watched this at the time, so it's like
Yeah,
not registering
yeah.
as the
I'll
same.
I'll I'll try to find it and show it to you later. And it's like it's way funnier knowing the context.
Sick. Yeah, I'll definitely have to rewatch it. Yeah, so she dies of old age, and then I think there's some like random shit in between that wasn't really all that important. And then we get a flashback of him in the colonial era, and he's like dueling this dude. And I don't think he's drunk in this scene, but it kind of seems like he is. But he's dueling this dude, and then he won't die every time the dude stabs him. So he's repeatedly getting stabbed and then
Yeah,
insulting this guy's wife. And the guy stabs him again, and then he insults his wife, and just like over and over again. And that's that entire scene.
yeah. That
And
one's a
then,
really good one.
yeah, and then we meet some other immortal dude that McLeod is friends with, and Kragan, Kruggerun, whatever the fuck his name is, eventually decapitates the other friend and like absorbs him, and some like void electric fucking magic happens. And every single time, fucking Clancy Brown just looks like he's jizzing in his pants. It's kind of ridiculous. And he stabs a police officer
They all
at some
do.
point in this scene. No, McLeod looks more like he's just like in some fucking time warp in his own brain. Anyway, so Kragan jizzes in his pants, steals a car from an old fucking lady who I think he puts on like the front of the car or some shit, or hits with the car after he steals it from her. Um Brenda starts investigating McLeod more and looking into his lineage, and starts to and they use some like bullshit ass software to track his signature that looks stupid as hell. So she
It's the 80s. The
discovers,
fact that there was any computer.
yeah, was just ridiculous. So she discovers that he's been like stealing the identities of children that die during childbirth. And then they use the bullshit software to line up signatures for all of the times his house has passed to like his future identity. And the like how the signature's signed matches up on all of them is just dumb. So she realizes that he must be some immortal person, which her and the dude running the software both seem to immediately accept that he's like an immortal being and are not at all skeptical or off put by this information. They're just like, whoa, you
Well, the
must be
data.
hunting an immortal dude that's, taking people's dead children's identities. That's crazy. It's like, there wasn't like any attempt to figure out if this was something that fits your reality more. They just accepted it. Then he goes to church, but I imagine he can't possibly believe in the same form of God that we do, because that seems
Yeah.
weird. And then this is where I debated whether Kragen's voice was in Jack and Daxter, and I was like, I'm pretty fucking sure it is. Fun
Yep.
fact, it is. And then Kragen like sexualizes some nuns and tells McLeod that he fucked his girlfriend after he killed his boyfriend. Yeah, and then he gets all mad. Also, this dude's neck is now being held together by fucking safety pins, which is insane.
Yeah.
Wild.
I love his design.
Yeah, his outfit, like his costume design, really cool. Brenda then confronts McLeod about being immortal, and then they have a whole scene where they show that he has a conversation pit in his apartment house thing, which we should bring those back. Conversation pits are cool as fuck and should be architecturally relevant again. And then he makes Brenda stab him to prove that he's immortal. Like, he just scarred this lady for life to prove a point. Like, he could have just stabbed himself or something. I don't know. And then her stabbing him almost immediately results in them wanting to fuck each other. And so I wrote, what the fuck is this Twilight-ass romance?
Yeah.
She's like, I just found out you're 700 years older than me, and that you're fucking immortal, and you just tried to kill yourself in front of me, and you're fine. But let's fuck. It's fine.
That's not even the wildest one, but okay, keep going.
I'm intrigued on what you think the wildest one is.
We'll get there. Maybe not today, but...
Okay. And then we see nipple and butt because it's the modern era, so we don't have to watch him modestly screwing someone in a kilt. We get to see naked people now. And then Kragen kidnaps Brenda and takes her on like a wild ride through the streets and leaves McLeod a voicemail about it. They go to do their final face-off, and he says goodbye to Rachel, that like little girl that he saved in World War II. And that entire scene is easily his best acting in that entire film. And as with every other fight scene in this film, it's very dramatic. There's lots of sparks, damages to infrastructure. It always has to be wet.
Yep.
I don't know what the deal with that is, but they do a rooftop battle, and they knock down a water tower, so now it's wet. And there's like a gaseous fog effect going on. And then he kills what's-his-fucking-face, absorbs his power, but I think they're the last two. So then he finally says the line in return and goes, there can be only one. And then he jizzes in his pants, and all of the electricity in the universe starts to possess him. And my favorite part about this scene is that he starts to, like, narrate everything that's happening to him. So they're not really showing you, like, they are to some degree. But they're not showing you what he's going through. He's just kind of screaming it. He's like, the quickening is overcoming me. I'm learning everything about everything. I know everything now.
Yeah.
Like, that's that scene. And then the end is him basically being like, I'm a fucking god and can read everybody's minds and I know everything now. But also I can grow old now? Because he says I can age now, which is also fucking confusing.
Bro.
And then him and Brenda kiss, and he sees his gay lover in what I assume is a hallucination of some sort.
Maybe.
And that's kind of it. And my last thoughts are, what the fuck even is this film?
Yeah,
that's about right.
Bro, Highlander 1 is such a movie. I'm just gonna jump right into Highlander 2. How does that sound?
Do it. Let's go for it.
All right, so we start with opening text to describe what's happening. Are you ready for this?
Good, just like the last one. Yep.
The year is 2024.
Oh my god, no. I'm so excited.
Industrial pollution has destroyed the ozone layer, leaving the planet at the mercy of the sun's ultraviolet radiation. An electromagnetic shield now protects the Earth. A small group believes the ozone layer has been repaired and no longer thinks the
Hold
shield is
on.
necessary, but no one knows for sure.
A magnetic shield already protects the Earth.
But this is a man-made artificial electromagnetic shield.
I know. Continue.
So we start on a statue, and it looks like a Captain America statue. It's a statue with a shield, and it says underneath, it has a plaque that says 25 years under the shield, 1999 to 2024. Why is there an end date on the plaque?
Well, because they've decided Earth is dead this year.
But like the statue is clearly like old and weathered, so it's weird that it was just now erected.
They planned ahead.
Sure. So we're at the opera.
Nostradamus made that statue.
So we're at the opera, and it highlights on the Highlander, McLeod. He's old. He's really old now.
Sick, he aged. Love
Yeah.
it. Good for him.
And then he's like watching the opera, and it's doing some flashbacks to the past. And where do you think they go when they go back to his past?
Scotland again? Or no. The 1980s.
Maybe a little bit further down. So the scene goes to some dune-looking shit with red hooded men in some desert ruins. And then they meet in like this kind of catacomb area. And then it shows Ramirez, Sean Connery. He's reprised his role. He makes a speech about the rebellion, and that he's like, one of us is the chosen one who will lead us. And he points a sword into the crowd, and it's pointing at Connor McLeod.
Of course.
So then they like get together, and then they dip their hands into some magic butter, and then like kind of touch each other.
What?
It's like this magic goo. I don't know, but it looks like radioactive butter.
I'm
then
glad their very homoerotic relationship is staying consistent.
And then he's like drawing runes on McLeod's head.
Wait, what fucking year are they in?
Well, the next scene is it shows like a little bit of a skirmish. There's McLeod's army versus like
Wait,
the
I have one
evil
question
army.
before you continue.
Sure.
Who is playing them?
Their roles have been reprised. So Ramirez is still Sean Connery. And
Wait, when was the second one made, though? Like, it wasn't made
Oh,
recently. Did they make it,
1991.
Okay, so they only made it a little bit afterwards. So they were like doing effects to make him old in modern times.
Yeah, but in this, he's like back to his prime age.
Got it. Okay.
So there's a battle with some like guys who have like future guns, and they've got like future armor, just fighting in the desert. And McLeod's like army basically loses, but it shows
this Dune.
So, reminder: this is the sequel to the Highlander.
Yes.
This is Highlander 2.
We're about to retcon a lot of things, I feel.
So, do you know who Michael Ironside is?
Oh my god, I feel like I do.
He was
Let me look up his face.
Yeah. He's one of those faces where you'd be like, "Oh yeah, he's the guy from Starship Troopers."
Yep.
Anyway, imagine him with super long black hair.
Oh my god. Okay.
And that is the antagonist that we are introduced to. He's General
Why
Katana.
is he always fighting? Oh my god. Why is he always fighting dudes with super long black hair?
I don't know, but so he beats McLeod and his little army, and he takes McLeod captive, and then they're like in like this underground prison with like a pond, and he's in the water, and he like catches an eel with his bare hands just to show how badass he is, and then he crushes it, and it like squeals.
What the fuck?
So then
He
the next
said, "Let me
scene,
murder this eel" as an intimidation tactic.
I know. So the next scene is McLeod and Ramirez are standing before a council of bald men and also General Katana, and they are sentencing them because of their rebellion. They sentence them to an exile into the future where other immortals are also exiled.
What the fuck?
And then they also explain the mechanic of chopping the heads off for permanent death. Like that's the only way to kill them and gain their power. And they say
because we needed that explained of all fucking things in this movie series.
And then they say that whoever is the last immortal will choose to either grow old in the future or return to the past. Past, future, future, past.
Oh my god. They were like, let's merge Back to the Future into this.
So, the Highlander 1 makes way more sense now. Especially when you compare it to Highlander 2.
How?
Dude, Highlander 1 makes way more sense than this movie.
Oh, I thought you meant it makes way more... No, I thought you meant makes way more sense after watching this movie, and I was like, how the fuck?
No, I said like in comparison to, like if you put the two down next to each other.
No, in comparison to, absolutely. There's a little bit more continuity in the first one thus far.
Like you watch Highlander 1 and you're like, well, I don't know what the fuck that was. And then you watch Highlander 2 and you're like, oh, well, now it all just made sense. Like, I don't know why I was even questioning any of that.
I know even less than I started with.
So McLeod and Ramirez were sentenced to the future. And then we go back to McLeod, who's still old, and he's like making a video call on a payphone because it's the future. Don't forget. And then he's robbed by Def Leppard, or it's like a bunch of muggers who are dressed like Def Leppard. Like they have like 80s metal, like leather and bright hair and bandanas. It's weird.
Well, that's clearly like the stereotypical evil.
Yeah.
Based off of fucking Kragan from the first one.
But they're like, hey, old man. And then they're like, oh no, it's McLeod, is their words. And then they ran off. So he's feared in this world. Which also, by the way, they did go, oh, it's McLeod. So the fact that he was going by all these other names, it was just thrown out the window. He's just Connor McLeod.
Yeah, irrelevant. Now. He's now Connor McLeod.
He's like, well, fuck it. So we shoot to a new scene with some eco-terrorists called Cobalt who are infiltrating a dam, it looks like. And one of them...
Wait, does he fight the eco-terrorists?
He does not.
Okay, I was going to say, because that would track with the first film of him not giving a shit about litter if he's fighting eco-terrorists.
Yeah, I'm glad you remember that. So... So one of the eco-terrorists, like spies, pulls off her mask, and it's a girl named Louise. And then they break into a room that has this giant energy core. And then they read some computer shit and learn that the radiation levels are returning to normal, with no context as to what any of that means.
Love this so much.
Dude, we go back to the past people who are the past, not the... Not Connor's past, but like his full Dune past.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it.
Okay, I'm confused though, because Ramirez dies in the past.
Yeah.
So how the fuck does he end up in the future?
No, so the place
you don't have to
answer.
We didn't know there's not one.
The place that McLeod and Ramirez are from before they were sent to the future, where they become immortal and find each other, they were from a place like before time or history was even recorded, which was also in the future. Rachel, it's stupid. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. Okay. We just retconned like all of the first fucking movie, and someone said, how do we make this cyberpunk now?
Dude, cyberpunk was a motif, but like they're in the past. They're in the past, but before the past was the past. It's like before time was even starting. They all had like laser guns and shit. But then they like sentenced people to the future, which is also
continue. It's convoluted and strange.
It doesn't get any easier either.
I'm grasping that.
So we go back to the council and Katana, who's they're currently watching McLeod on a little TV, the present McLeod, who's old, and they say he's getting older, but he's still alive, which doesn't make sense, because isn't that the future? Like, can't you just like fast forward until he dies? I don't like.
Also,
what
if he's getting older? And you guys just said that one of you is the chosen one, and you'll choose to get old or come back. Wouldn't you just be like, he chose to get old, and he's the last one of us?
Yeah, Rachel.
We're done here.
Yeah, Rachel, that would make sense. Yeah, it would. It would. Actually, yes. You're right. Very astute of you. I'm glad you're paying attention. But yeah, they're like, he's getting older, but he's still alive. He shouldn't be alive. Oh no, what do we do? But again, they're watching him in the
What?
future. I don't know why. Like,
He's still alive. Just fucking wait a couple years. What?
but even, yeah, you're right on that. But even if that weren't the case, like, they're just looking into the future.
Yeah, look a few years into the future.
That's what I'm saying is,
I know.
what the fuck are you talking about, guys? So Katana, General Katana, calls for 2 of his soldiers, which are porcupine guys. Like, they've got weird teeth and they've got like prickly hair and
Okay.
goggles. He then sends these 2 porcupine men to the future to kill McCloud, who's old. So we go back to the future where McCloud is at a bar and some like really ugly bitch starts yelling at McCloud for turning the world into shit, blaming him for the sky shield, and then smashes a bottle on him.
What the fuck did he do between being a fucking antiques dealer and now?
So apparently he was one of the creators of the electromagnetic shield around the Earth that's protecting the Earth from the ultraviolet radiation that's crazy. But it also plunged the world into darkness because everything's dark now because they can't have the sun anymore.
You know, for a dude that can't grasp calculus, I don't understand how he invented a fucking electromagnetic shield.
You're right, but also in the quickening he said that he learned everything ever.
Oh, you know what? You're right. You're right. That's fair. He would now be the one to save humanity.
Yeah, and don't forget that he created this thing to save the world. But also he litters and shit. So that's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
So she smashes a bottle on him, and the bartender kicks her out, and then it shows that he's bleeding for a moment, and then it heals, and then he says, "Oh no, not again." By the way,
well, he's gonna reverse age or stop aging now.
Well, no, he's starting to heal when he didn't before because he was growing old, so he was mortal again.
Mm-hmm.
He has,
yeah. So I'm saying he's becoming immortal again.
Yeah. He's hamming this up. He looks like the makeup makes him look 60, but he speaks like he's 200. Like it's really, really old. Like it's like it reminds me of Dumbledore from the first Harry Potter movie. You know, you could barely
like this.
Yeah, you could barely get his lines out.
Yeah.
So
funny.
McCloud's like, oh no, and so he runs out to his car. And then Luis jumps into the car, and then she says, "I need your help." And then he drives away, and he's like driving like a stunt driver, and she's talking about the sky shield and shit, and he's like, "I don't know, I don't care." But then the porcupine dudes attack, and
I like the tension in your voice. But then,
and then he like tells Luis, "Oh, run and hide," and then he's like hobbling away. And the porcupine dudes are chasing him. And then he like shouts out, "Ramirez, my old friend Ramirez." He's just like chanting it into the sky and nothing's happening.
Oh God. Love that for him.
So he fights one of the porcupine guys. It's some of the worst choreography I've ever seen. And they like end up on top of a trolley. McCloud manages to throw him off where his head gets graphically decapitated by the trolley wheels.
Oh,
like,
delightful.
It's worth looking it up just to go like, dude, what in Pumpkinhead is this shit?
What in the forehead is this?
What did you just upload? Oh, Jesus.
Were you around? I'm sorry to interrupt. I was trying to look up what he looked like as an old man for like a frame of reference, and this came up. And were you around when that dude came in and he wanted pictures of a horse with lightning in the background, but he clearly took like the thumbnail and blew it up to a full like poster size?
No, but yeah, I've seen people like that a lot.
Yeah, that's just what this reminded me of, so it felt relevant.
The porcupine guy gets decapitated, and that was what was needed.
Viciously.
Yeah, but he was decapitated by McCloud, technically. So... Yeah. Lightning strikes McCloud, as is tradition. And as a gas tanker like runs out of control and hits him and explodes in this big fiery blaze, and then out from the flames, is he a
youth again?
Walks a somewhat younger McCloud. But he's like still Christopher Lambert, so he's like younger, but he's still like in his 40s, 50s. Like,
yeah.
You know, it's wow. You didn't really didn't shoot for your prime, did you?
Is Brenda still around?
No.
Okay.
So Luis sees this, and she's like getting all hot and bothered, like visibly hot and bothered, just like every character from the first movie.
Yeah, every girl and their mother is into McLeod.
Yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
main character has to fuck, otherwise he's not the peak of manhood.
Bro, I'll get there. So McLeod picks up the shitty sword that the first porcupine guy had, and it's like cardboard with aluminum foil on it. I don't know what happened to his katana, because he had like a fucking baller, like dragon head, ivory handle Masamune katana. Like that was the whole motif.
200 times. That was the whole beef.
Yeah.
Of why Brenda wanted to talk to him about it.
So then the other porcupine guy, like hits a button and it has like a winged jetpack like pops out of his back.
What the fuck?
Like Batman animated series, like Batwing jetpack. And then he starts flying at him. And then McLeod then gets on a hoverboard to engage in one of the worst chase sequences ever fathomed by man, where they're like chasing each other like in the air. And it's just like the shot keeps going back and forth between the two. It like every split second, it's impossible to get any information from this. But eventually, McLeod fashions a clothesline like trap. Like he gets down and he gets like this like steel wire and then goes, "Come at me!" And then the guy comes at him and then he like jumps and pulls it.
I love your acting. Come at me, because that's probably about how good it was.
Yeah, I think it's better, honestly. But
Likely.
he jumps out and then uses the clothesline wire to decapitate the flying porcupine, invoking the quickening once more.
God.
McLeod calls out Ramirez's name again, and then Ramirez comes back to life.
What the fuck?
But in Scotland, where he died. So he resurrects during a Hamlet play, and then he starts
What?
Yeah, and then he's like talking to the actors. He's like, "Oh, what's going on?" And they're like, "Dude, get out of here, shithead." And he's like, "Shithead? What is this? I don't understand this." But he knows what shit and head mean. I don't know what he's getting at. Like this fish out of water bullshit.
Oh.
So we then cut away from that. So Luis, the eco-terrorist bitch, walks up to McLeod after watching everything that's just happened. She's confused. And McLeod says, "I'm Connor McLeod of the clan McLeod, and I cannot die."
I'm here to fuck. Oh, good. That's like, I refer back to my statement of the filmmakers really just telling, not showing. They were like, here you go. The rest of the film, they were like, you have to surmise everything. And then the end, they got really lazy and they're like, let's just bring it back for this one.
So
we'll just state who he is and that he's immortal to everybody he meets.
Yeah. So I'm Connor McLeod of the clan McLeod, and I cannot die. And then they embrace and start getting really hot.
What the fuck?
They're like fucking heavy petting, making out just on the drop of a dime. She pauses.
This guy was just like, I'm young again and don't have erectile dysfunction anymore. Let's go.
She pauses to tell him her name, Luis.
No, she does not. You're telling me they're about to fuck. And she goes, hold on. This is my first name.
So they tear each other's clothes off and then bang on this dirty street alleyway against a brick wall.
What the fuck?
While the melody of Who Wants to Live Forever plays.
Oh, yes, the song that his longtime wife died to.
It's disrespectful as fuck.
Yes, what the fuck? They were like, hey, we just met and you used to be 60, but I guess your forehead's less wrinkly now. Let's fuck.
They tear the clothes off of each other too.
This is
and she's
wild.
Like making out.
Who wrote this film?
But
this is like the world's shittiest fan fiction.
I'd like to point out that it is just a melody to Who Wants to Live Forever, not the lyrics. In fact, there's no Queen music present anywhere in this movie.
They couldn't get Queen to reprise their role.
They're like, nah.
They went, they do what? Where?
Well, wait,
and you want to use which song?
Isn't this? I think this is after Freddie Mercury died. So it's
they just didn't have the rights to use the songs the second time?
Well, Brian May is kind of a he's kind of a pompous smug douche who doesn't like to give his rights out to people.
So's Connor McLeod.
Good point.
He will give his rights to you. He'll give them immediately after he resurrects his youth in an alley.
So we
That's
cut to the
dirty.
mansion. We cut to his mansion, which is all dark because he doesn't have indoor lighting or something. And she says...
He's like, I'm old. I used to not be able to see until 15 minutes ago.
So she says, and I quote, "Now let me get this straight. You're immortal there, but immortal here? Until you kill all the guys from there who come here, and then you're mortal again, or go there and kill the guys to become immortal here."
What?
She's literally the audience calling out this fucking plot.
Yeah, they
what's
fourth
happening
wall
here.
this shit, and also none of it makes fucking sense. That entire 2 sentences or run-on sentence you just read, confusing as hell.
So,
and I know what's happening.
So we go back to Ramirez, who's walking around marveling at the future and calling everyone shithead, like, "Good day, shithead." And
Oh, I love that for him.
yeah,
Good job, Sean Connery.
yeah, I know. He finds himself in a suit tailoring, like a fucking store to make a suit, and he's like, "I'd like a suit," and they're like looking at him because he still has like his old Spanish gay pirate garb on. And they're like, "With what money?" And he gives them his earring. It's like a pearl earring. And they're like, "Yes, right this way, sir." And then they have like this weird montage. And they make him like this elaborate suit. And then they
Is it equally gay?
It's about.
Okay, good.
But then they get him like then this earring was enough to pay for like the cab fare and a plane ride too from them.
What the fuck?
Because he's like on a plane and he's like, "Oh, wow." And it's a CG plane. And I don't know why they didn't just use stock flying footage, which is used everywhere in the 80s. They put in work to make a CGI plane. And then he's like looking out the window like, "Oh, flying." So Luis is asking about the real sky since no one's seen it in forever. So McLeod describes it like, "Oh, it's a blue sky," and stuff. And we go back to Katana is now watching footage of McLeod in the future, killing his porcupine men, and then decides to go to the future himself to finish the job. This is a fun scene. He pops onto a subway, like a train, and then he looks out the window and says, "This sure doesn't look like Kansas."
No. He fucking does not.
He does.
What the fuck?
I don't know how he gets that because he's from the.
What did he just watch? Wizard of Oz?
Bro.
How can you be in the first Highlander and like agree to be in this one?
That's a good question.
Do you think they read the script and him and Sean Connery just both went, "There's no way we can't do this. Like, there's no way we have to do this."
That's probably exactly it.
Because I can't imagine being in the first Highlander, which, like, though redonkulous, is not this fucking weird. And just looking at the script for this one and not being like, "This is dumb as fuck. I have to do this with you."
If I were famous,
so we can
I'd do
laugh
it.
about it the whole time.
So General Katana goes to the front of the train and then beats the conductor up so he could drive the train. And
love that.
It goes real fast.
He knows how to drive a train because he knows where Kansas is.
Rachel. So the train does go really fast because he's making it go as fast, and metal starts playing in the background, and he's all, "Yes, haha, give me more." And the train is going so fast that people are being thrown to the back, and then it breaks through a wall into the street and comes to a stop. So General Katana could look back at all the dead passengers and then go, "Last stop."
Oh my god. Jesus.
This guy's from the Turbo Pass, so I don't know how he's getting these fucking references.
Well, he's been watching fucking McLeod just go on a bingey shitty movie marathon.
I guess. I don't know how else. So,
oh my good lord.
McLeod goes to quote-unquote the Shield Corporation, which is what it is called, to have a flashback with his colleague, Alan Neiman, which is his only other friend, about the time that they put the shield back up in 1999. And then I wrote, man, Christopher Lambert has a god cry of a forehead. So Alan, his science buddy that helped him put the shield up, he informs McCloud that the ultraviolet radiation is normal above the shield, so it's not needed anymore. And then in walks David Blake, played by the dude from Scrubs, Dr. Cox.
Oh my God, no.
He's super young in this. It's crazy to watch. So Blake is the CEO or something, and he's talking about how good the shield business is, which I don't know how it's a business.
Fuck?
How do they make money?
Does everybody just pay rent for the shield above their head? What?
I suppose, but it's not like he could just take it down.
You would die too, sir.
So Katana takes a cab, and then when he gets to his destination, he just punches the window out so he could look out and then exit the car. And then he breaks all the other windows just to be a dick.
He was just like, I don't believe in glass.
So Ramirez, you should just get this movie out of the way and watch it.
Oh no, I absolutely have to watch this. Also, I just am like scrolling through pictures of Highlander 2 for reference points, and one of them, speaking of him not believing in glass, is him punching out the front window to choke who I imagine is Luis.
Yes, yeah, that comes later. He does punch a second car window.
Yeah, he doesn't believe in glass.
So Ramirez is on the plane and he's talking to some woman, and then the safety video starts playing in the middle of flying, not at the beginning. Like, they're in the air, and they've been in the air for who knows how long, several hours, and they're like, oh, time for the safety training video. And the video is just people screaming as their plane plummets to the ground with, like, fucking elevator music in the background. And they're like, place your seatbelt. And I don't know how that got through.
What a strange introduction to flying for Ramirez.
It doesn't bother him at all. He's like, yep. So...
He's like, I too would scream if this weird sky contraption went down.
So McCloud visits Brenda's grave, which is the chick from the first movie, and
remembers
remembers
he's
her
really
death.
Fucking mourning Brenda. How'd she die? I'm curious.
Crazy skin cancer from the sun. Like crazy. They show a flashback. I mean, her eyes are covered, so you can't see if it's a different actress or not. But she has like crazy, like leper skin going on.
Beautiful. Poor Brenda. She did not get the fucking screen time she deserved.
So Katana reveals himself to McCloud at this like graveyard church, and he's like, haha, your wife is dead. And McCloud says, nice. I was going to grow old and die just like you wanted, but then you fucked up by sending people, so now I'm immortal again. Which, again, dumb, because again, they were looking into the future, and I don't know why they didn't just look further. Stupid. Anyway. So Luis is looking at the memorabilia of McCloud's history while the melody of Who Wants to Live Forever plays again. Again, no words. McCloud goes to an abandoned warehouse where General Katana is because they didn't fight wherever they were before. And they fight. They're fighting. It's an awful fight scene. It's the worst choreography ever. He still has that shitty fucking sword. And they fight all the way up to like this top level where McCloud's like ends up getting backed into like this elevator thing, and Katana hits the gear, the top gear of it, whatever, and it falls. And fucking McCloud, it's like a 5-second scene of McCloud just standing in place, looking down, like horrified as it keeps going down. It's weird, but it hits, and he's like broken up. And we watch his bones crack and twist to heal. And then Katana looks down to McCloud and says, nicely done, but this isn't over. As if McCloud planned that.
Good job healing. Pat, pat, pat.
So he says, nicely done, but this isn't over. Like McCloud got away, but he's just like downstairs. Like he's down. You could go downstairs and finish him off.
Yeah, like what?
So McCloud just goes home.
The long pause of like, you fought well, we'll wait again.
So he goes home to lament his 2 dead wives to his new girlfriend when they hear a noise. McCloud grabs the same shitty sword he's been using this entire movie. So he goes to investigate the noise, and he finds himself face to face with Ramirez. And they engage in the worst sword fighting ever in a big dark room so you can't see their faces, but it's very homoerotic as always.
Of course, because they're very gay for each other.
Yep. And then we go back to the office, the Shield Corporation. Blake approaches Alan. Blake
with
is
Dr.
the CEO.
Cox.
Blake is Dr. Cox.
Yeah.
And calls him a traitor. And then he's taken away before going to a board meeting where General Katana barges in and says that he wants to join the company. And Blake's like, no, and then has his men shoot him like 8 times. And then he gets surprised that it didn't kill him. And then General Katana kills the man who shot him by like taking both of his hands and prying his jaw open. And then
what the fuck?
But like he's like prying his mouth open and then just snaps his neck.
He was like, I got bored halfway through.
I was gonna do a sick God of War execute, but then
It's when you like start a sentence and then halfway through you give up to start a different one.
Yes.
It's still the end result. You just wanted to choose different words.
So then he gets buddy with Blake, saying that he just wants the Highlander and doesn't care about whatever else. And Blake's like, okay. And then back at McCloud's house, Ramirez is all, why the big night sky shields? And then talks about how Noah's flood had a purpose to wipe the slate clean, and this is that like that, I guess. Luis barges in to tell them that Alan was taken to the prison, and Ramirez is like, he says, McCloud, your time is now! He screams it and then slams his fist through a giant glass globe.
Like just for fun?
Yeah, he's just like, your time is now! And just...
All right, just dramatic effect.
So they have a plan, and the plan is they just drive through the prison gates and then get shot 1 billion times.
Well,
and it's so extra.
Why the fuck not?
This scene is crazy to watch. It reminds me of the scene from RoboCop where they're just like decimating Murphy by a firing squad. I don't know if you've seen that movie or that scene.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, I know
it's crazy, but it's like that, but a chase scene at the same time. Whole time rock music blaring.
Love that.
Then the cops just open the trunk of the tethered bullet hole filled car to find Luis untouched. Not a single bullet. And she's like, they just kidnapped me. And
what the fuck?
This was all an elaborate ruse to get into the prison, as you remember that these two, they're immortal people. They can't get the shot.
They can't get the shot.
So this prison is a series of sewer pipes where they find Alan all battered and traumatized. Even though
the prison itself is sewer pipes?
Yeah, it's like a series of sewer pipes. I don't know.
Yeah, because everything has to be wet and dark and weird.
God, yeah. And he's like battered and traumatized. It's been less than 2 hours since he's been there. And then Alan's like, he gives him the coordinates to get above the shield to see the radiation himself. And then he dies. And
what the fuck?
So they're like leaving, and on their way out, they get stuck in a room where there's a giant fan that's like trying to lower and slice them up like deli ham. And then Ramirez like stabs his Masamune katana that I'm unsure when he got back, because I've been bitching about the cardboard sword this whole time.
Yeah.
He stabs that sword into the ground and then talks about how everyone has a measure of life and how people let it drip away. But what if you focus it all at once? You'd be able to do something amazing. And then he uses the force to rise the fan back up while Amazing Grace is being played on bagpipes.
You're fucking joking. That is the best piece of information you could have dropped while Amazing Grace is playing on bagpipes.
So he's holding the fan up and says, all right, you guys go. Like as if I'm just going to die now. And then he does. Like,
what the fuck?
He goes, you guys go. And they just like leave. He's it's not like he's like, I'm holding it. I can't hold it much longer. He raises it. And then like, he's just like standing there. He's like, yeah, you guys go ahead.
Yeah, I'm chilling. And then he dies?
Yep. That's it.
Does he die because he decapitates himself with the fan?
I want to tell you that, but the fan like lowers and then he like disappears in a flash of light.
What the fuck? He just was like, yeah, I'm done with these shitheads.
So they get in
I'm
a
out.
Humvee and they begin to drive off when Katana jumps out and goes, brr, and then they just run over him.
Can't believe this dude's name is Katana.
But this was a ruse so that he could climb aboard the vehicle. So McCloud sees him and then gets out to fight him on top of the vehicle while Luis continues to drive. And you know where this is leading. They manage to shake Katana off, and then he like busts through the window, and then they like escape, and then they drive away and to like a dam that has a tunnel that leads above the shield. And they take this tunnel that's like this big like ladder way. The other end is just a snowy mountain, and there's all these snowy mountains that just exist above the shield. And they see the blue sky and agree that the shield needs to come down.
Okay.
We shoot to Blake, who's freaking out that McCloud is going to destroy the company, and then he starts jabbing at Katana like, oh, you suck at this. Katana gets angry and then lifts Blake by his testicles with one hand and then throws him out of a window.
By his testicles?
So McCloud goes to...
I like how you weren't like, yeah, you just continued.
I can't just...
No, just keep going.
I can't just dwell on this, Rachel.
I know, just keep going, it's fine.
So McCloud goes
There's too much to dwell on.
McCloud goes to, I don't know, the shield reactor generator. It's just a giant beam of light, like Tron or something. So he goes there, and General Katana is there to meet him for a final showdown. McCloud is wielding Ramirez's Masamune blade, which is what he should have had the whole time, because he never got rid of it in the first movie.
Yeah.
This is an awful sword fight. I've seen like better choreography on YouTube. It's really bad. So McCloud is doing super good this time. It
wasn't great in the first one either.
I know, but it just gets worse.
I can only imagine we didn't get... Yeah, I don't think we're going uphill with this franchise.
So McCloud is doing much better this time, unlike the last time when Katana almost beat him. And my only theory is that it's because of the sword. His sword isn't shit. Like, he has the good sword this time.
Garbage-ass sword.
So he decapitates Katana and says, there can only be one, which doesn't even work in this movie.
No, because there's fucking several of them.
Because there's the past people who make more than one. Yeah, I don't know.
And there's probably still some past people, so there's still more than one, just not in this year.
So McCloud and Luis approach the shield generator, and then they hear Ramirez's like voice, like a ghost, say, "It'll take the power of you both to destroy the shield." And what that means...
Ramirez plays a ghost a lot.
And what that means is that McCloud walks into the beam of light and the shield gets destroyed.
It'll take both of you, and by that I mean just go stand there.
He walks into the beam of light and the shield gets destroyed, and he survives, of course. And then they're outside of the dam on like the side of a dirty river, and they're like making out, and then they pan up to stars in space. God. This bugs me, but the credits begin, and it's something small, but the credits look like they were printed on a different star background and then cut out and pasted on this different starry sky. It's weird and sloppy, like this whole fucking movie. Now, Highlander 2... They
just said cherry on top, the credits.
Highlander 2 may not be the worst movie ever, but it's easily the worst sequel ever.
Oh God, yeah. I don't know how
Thor:
we went
Dark World,
from...
Eat Your Heart Out.
I just don't understand how we went from the first one to fuck it, let's retcon it. It's cyberpunk now.
Look, how bad it is that there is a Highlander 3. Okay.
What?
There's a couple more actually. There is Highlander 3, which takes place immediately after Highlander 1, and it just ignores Highlander 2 altogether.
What the fuck?
And the TV series came out, all pretended Highlander 2 didn't exist. Because it didn't, as far as they're concerned.
What?
Yeah, bro. Highlander 2 is just so bad.
It's so bad, they just said, no.
Yeah,
just no.
Good. It's like Dragon Ball GT, where like... I mean, I love Dragon Ball GT, but it makes sense that they're like, we want to do something better, so they like kind of went back and just did Dragon Ball Super instead. None of that means anything to you. Anyway,
No. I know what you're talking about. I'm just looking into Highlander 3, and it says Brenda has now died in a car crash,
Yeah, not from crazy sun cancer.
and now McLeod is living with his adopted son, and he's hunted by a warrior named Kane.
Then there's then there's also like Highlander the Final or some shit, and Highlander
And
Revelations.
Highlander Endgame.
Yeah, some shit like that. There's a couple other like weird ones. But
What
I just wanted to focus
the
on
fuck?
Highlander 1 and Highlander 2 because it's such a jump. That's it. It's just such a jump.
This shit's absurd.
Yeah, it's it's a topic approached a lot when people are talking about sequels of movies, and they're like, I don't know how, because Highlander 1, again, you either love it or you hate it. Like it's cheesy and it's dumb, but it's fun. And then the second one's just like, well, I don't know what the second one was at all.
Like, I don't know what the fuck this was.
This is why I wanted you to watch the first one and me cover the second one, because I wanted your culture shock from like,
of me
what is this? And then like,
a fucking Highlander suddenly evolving into some bullshit.
The TV show kind of slapped. I mean, it was the shittiest show in the 90s, but like the theme song for it was Princes of the Universe by Queen, which is my favorite Queen song.
Nice. No, it's a great fucking song.
Yes.
It's a good start. This was an experience. I don't know how to process this yet.
Yeah. I love Highlander. That's our music.
Yes, music suggestions of the week.
What
do you need me to go first because you're not prepared?
Erasure. We're doing Erasure.
Erasers.
Erasure. It's the first thing that came to my mind because I completely forgot to have a thing in mind. Erasure, which is the gayest band ever.
Oh, perfect. It's right on theme.
Yeah, it's in the 80s too. Erasure is, I think it was like an electro pop duo of like ABBA covers.
Mm-hmm.
They do the song Break These Chains of Love and Always. Do you remember Robot Unicorn Attack?
Isn't A Little Respect a really famous one?
Yes, yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Which was also a thing in Scrubs. A lot of Scrubs references.
Yes, lots of Scrubs references in this one.
Did you ever play a Robot Unicorn Attack?
No.
It was a big thing like in like the 2010-ish era, but it was like,
oh fuck, you know what? I might actually know.
Yeah,
what you're
it was like
about.
a weird, just like I'm bored game on your phone where you play as like this robot unicorn and like you're like jumping through, and it's the background song to that was Always, and Always is the song.
I do know what you're talking about.
Always is the song I'm going to recommend. I also recommend the music video specifically because it's weird. It's got like some fushigi shit going on, and it's like, I don't know, like Chinese kung fu silk punk. I don't know what else to call it. It's weird.
All right.
It's good, but Always is a great song.
Kung fu silk punk.
But again, like Erasure does a lot of ABBA covers, and if that doesn't say anything,
if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will.
And what do you recommend?
My recommendation for the week is going to be Suicide Boys. Both the S's in that are $signs, not actual S's. And A Little Trauma Can Be Illuminating.
Is that their song name?
I think the title's a lot longer than that. I think it's something like A Little Trauma Can Be Illuminated and something about being in the sun. Oh, it's And I'm Shining Like the Sun. Yeah, Suicide Boys are dope as fuck though, so go check them out.
Nice. That was
shit.
That was our episode. Thank you for listening to that episode.
And if you guys liked what you heard and you want to hear us talk about what was the next film that we're discussing, Mortal Kombat,
Highlander
the first
3.
one. Oh yeah, Mortal Kombat, the first one, and Highlander 3. And
dude,
I'd fucking Chris Lambert's entire filmography.
I'd like to do Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, where I do the second one of the thing again. That'd be kind of fun. Maybe not for the next one. Give me a break.
Yeah, but no, we'll take our time until we get to the next.
Whatever we're doing, make sure to
series.
favorite us and thumb up us.
Yeah, like,
and
subscribe, download on your favoriteest podcasting place.
Recommend this to your mother. Say that we don't say that many curse words. But you're
We definitely
lying,
do.
of course.
And your mom's going to be absolutely appalled. Recommend us to your grandma. She'll be even more offended.
No, grandmas don't get offended.
If she can figure out, well, she'll be offended if she can figure out how to use Spotify.
I've never seen a grandmother like clutch her pearls and go, "My word." No, it's always like the mothers are like, "Oh," and then the grandmothers are like, "Yeah."
If you guys want us to talk about a thing, if you want horrible advice, if you want to recommend a song to us, email us at whtpah@gmail.com. That's whoopah@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at We Have That Podcast at Home, all one word, or follow us on whtpah whoopah on Blue Sky. It's like New Age Twitter. Maybe. We'll find out.
Fucking nobody's using it, but
Yeah, but we are. So, come visit. Next week we will be tackling
yes, next week and not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow at all. Slice of life. And I think we're going to talk about traveling because I just traveled and I will be traveling again. Into the future and then back into the past and then back into the future, and I'm going to age up and down multiple times and become immortal and mortal multiple times.
Gotta get back to the past, Samurai Jack.
Yeah. Good thinking.
Anyway.
I almost said Dodge Durango. DeLorean was the words I was looking for.
Ah, yes, Marty McFly and his Dodge Durango.
I don't know why that was the first thing that popped into my head. I was like, car name, D, Dodge Durango.
Anyway, I've been off-brand Gannett.
And I've been off-brand Rachel, and this has been We Have That Podcast at Home. Thanks for listening, y'all.